or Cambridge, and they've been able to give it the opportunity to choose that, then that's fine. And it's just sort of bringing it together. And it was interesting that every section that make up a school community all came up with exactly the same values.
What interests me is that the lack of voice around that. You know, I'm becoming increasingly interested in the tension around that, because you're articulating there what, you know, you hear a lot, don't you, in terms of schools and individual teachers and values, but then at the same time we're actually often not negating those values by taking down some of these things that are coming in, you know, in terms of practice, you know, ideas for practice that actually don't sit comfortably with us. So I think part of what I want to try and do is find the voice, if you like, that actually will begin to influence what's going on somewhere else. Because I, for many years, have been influenced by others in what I don't think was necessarily a positive way. So, I mean, what the bigger picture, if you like, is finding my voice and being able to say, well, actually, that's not really the way that I think things should go. What do you think?
I think that one of the problems with it for secondary school, and I can't speak for primary school because it's not something I'm particularly knowledgeable on, but I think one of the biggest problems for secondary school is the pressure on, the government pressure on raising attainment, and every child has to be achieving an A, and every child has, and it completely contradicts the other side of education, which is the bringing together of people from a community and creating a community through the schools. And I think the way that in secondary schools, like in September, I'm a head of department, and in September I have to go in and I have to explain why my results are the way they are. And I have to have all these reasons for it. And then I'll get asked questions like, well, so-and-so's results were better, can you tell me why? That's not very collegiate, it's not very respectful, it's not really very, you know, and I understand the accountability of getting children the best that you can, but the school is a living contradiction if you want to look at it that way. It's what the government is trying to get out of secondary schools and primary schools, because there's targets for primary schools as well. And then what they're saying how you should be achieving it. They don't mesh nicely. They don't go together as a jigsaw. It's like this all the time.
It's just, isn't the implication, and Jane, you know, just say if I'm right here, that the implication of what Jane has done today, right, for you in the here and now, as far as I've understood it, is that is what the implication of Jane's work is for you, to take that experience, which will be saying, right, there you are, locating yourself as that living contradiction, and then you would come with your account of how you were facing that, for example, as you're being asked to account in the school, but that doesn't fit with your values. So if I've understood Jane's understanding about what it would mean for you to take what Jane's ideas are saying, it would be next year, perhaps, for you to bring your account of your learning as you've tried to live those values that the school have identified, and then bring that narrative of your learning into this kind of peer group.
But that's the power of self-study action research, because it allows, I feel allowed to do that because of that methodology that I've chosen to do. That's the crux of what I'm trying to say, I think, today, is that using this methodology has allowed me in this forum to give an account for my practice, which may influence your practice, it may not. But I feel, without being melodramatic, that I've actually found a voice that in all my years teaching I never had before. And for me that's powerful. And I want to influence now. It's no good being a living contradiction and continually being like that. I think I might have an opportunity to actually begin to work on that bigger picture of being a living contradiction. I don't know, watch this space.
And if you were to bring these understandings to your practice and find ways, I mean, they needn't be complete ways, even just a small piece will do. That's a starting point. And then next year, present, say, in the same symposiums with Jane. You know, other people then would learn from you. I'm thinking of one of the teachers I work with in South Africa, where he was faced with exactly the same situation that you are, and aren't many of us, in that we hold personal values which actually are intentional, institutional, and values and policy and so on. And the teacher I'm thinking about, he's just completed his master's in this way, and his question then has become, how do I resolve the tensions between the values I hold around collaboration within a culture that is highly competitive? And so he's made that a focus of the research program. Now, he hasn't found the answers yet, but he is beginning to find the answers, and he's working with his colleagues to develop new ways and, actually contributing to cultural transformation in the school. Now, not everybody is there. There is himself and one or two others, but it's a beginning. And all processes of social and cultural change go slowly, as we know, because it's people, it's not places and things, it's people. So you've got to engage the people, as Jane has done.
And that to me is true peer collaboration, when you actually work alongside people in that way. And I would love you to contact me because, I know how you feel. And I think many teachers do. I think that's the power of this work, that actually it does resonate. Whenever I've presented this to people, they absolutely understand where I'm coming from. They might not agree with me, but they do feel that same sense of tension.
The collaboration is very powerful. Do you have colleagues where you are who feel some other concerns?
I think that most people do. That most people in secondary school teaching, and I can speak for Scotland, feel that there's just this relentless pressure which is unrealistic, and what makes me personally so angry is that we have then got to put this pressure on children, and it's an unrealistic pressure to put on children, and I resent that. I really resent having to force something which, yes, academic achievement is very important, and I'm not saying that that's, yes it is, but there's more to life than that, and it just really makes me angry that I have to do something I love, which is teaching, and yet I have to do it within government restrictions that I don't necessarily agree with.
And yet, what interests me in what you've been saying is that one of the values that you said everybody signed up for was excellence. And it seems to me that excellence is something if we have that as a value, it's something we really struggle for, that is very stressful. And so you've got a body of people, it's not just the staff, if I'm reading you right, it's actually the pupils themselves who are also saying, we want to be excellent at what we do. So it seems to me that if I was in your position, I'd be wanting to work with that in order to achieve it, and actually thinking with them, isn't this something that we're going to find stressful in some way? That achievement and attainment is going to be part of that too. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think actually the excellence almost gives you a way to start engaging with stress that is there, and saying to youngsters and to teachers that actually it's okay to feel stress. Sometimes it's exactly what you need. I think too much is made of stress, and too much is put on others for including that stress, whereas actually my own life and life of many others, when I discuss that with them, it's actually a very important factor in my life, and where it's driven me to where I am and to where other people are. It's where it tips over and causes illness and unhappiness and dislocation is where the problem is. But it's actually a recognition that these values that you've got there, humour and excellence, can actually be fighting against each other at times, isn't it? I mean, they're important ones to hold, but they often don't sit easily together, and you get the tensions that's coming out in yourself and me and others, isn't it? I don't know.
Can I ask about your whole school